Hello and welcome to everybody. What an inspiring video to begin this session. Today, we are reflecting on a unique partnership that has spanned 15 years. Pampers and UNICEF working together to impact the lives of children. Their goal to protect them from maternal neonatal tetanus, or MNT. Maternal and neonatal newborn tetanus, as we just said, referred to as MNT, occurs as a result of inadequate maternal immunization, limited or absent clean delivery services, and improper umbilical cord care. Once newborn tetanus has been contracted, there is tragically no real cure. In rural areas of developing countries, almost all infants that are infected with newborn tetanus die. Now, today we are reflecting on a partnership between UNICEF and Pampers that has been working to change that and to change that around the globe. Now, I'm Isabel Kuma. I'll be guiding you through today's events, and I'm delighted to be joined by a wonderful panel of experts who I will introduce to you now. Now, Ranya Shamoon is the Senior Vice President of Baby Care Europe at Procter and Gamble. Carla Haddad Mardini is the Director of Private Fundraising and Partnerships at UNICEF. Linda Scott is Emeritus Professor at University of Oxford, and you can see them all joining here on our screen now. Welcome to you all. And Dr. Azar Abidraza is Immunization and MNT Specialist at UNICEF. Now, to all of you participating, thank you so much for joining us. You will have the option to be able to ask questions. We're going to try and fit in a Q&A session at the end of our session today. And you'll see in the top right corner of your screen a little question mark, and you can post questions there. But I'd like now to begin by focusing on this partnership. I think a seminal partnership that was created by UNICEF and Pampers together. And Ranya, I'd like to begin with you because this has been an absolutely amazing journey, hasn't it? But tell me, how did this partnership between Pampers and UNICEF begin?
Thank you, Isabel. It has been an amazing journey indeed, and it's really great to be with all of you today to reflect together on this incredible partnership. So as you said, Pampers' relationship with UNICEF started 15 years ago in 2006. And at that time, it actually wasn't that common for two organizations from different worlds to come together and join forces to create long-lasting impact in the cause-related space. We knew, of course, that we had a lot of challenges to overcome, but we also knew that we could be writing history together. So it was very exciting. And a starting point was our shared purpose of making babies and children's world a better place. And so we identified a problem that we could solve together. And as you said, that problem was the elimination of MNT. And this was a cause where we felt we had the ability to make a meaningful impact. Why? Because we were joining the awareness and reach of the Pampers brand with the incredible capabilities of the UNICEF organization. So we're very proud today to see that this pioneering partnership, which helped protect 100 million women and their babies, has also offered a lot of rich learnings, which can also be reapplied by other businesses and for other causes, of course.
Ryan, you say it's had a huge impact, and you say you feel proud, but what else when you look back on these 15 years, how do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, I'll say that I still can't believe it's been 15 years. 15 years have passed, and we're today together to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Pampers joining hands with UNICEF. I actually was there in the early years of the partnership, and I really fell in love with it for a couple of reasons. First, personally, as a mother myself, I actually started working on Pampers and on this partnership with UNICEF while leading our French business. And back then, my own children were in diapers. So like any new parent, I hoped for a healthy start of life for my children, and that extended to all babies around the world. So that was very meaningful to me. And then the second reason is that this partnership really builds on a key part of the Pampers brand DNA, building a better world for babies, which is why I feel it has been so well embraced by parents, retailers, employees, and many others. So being part of this partnership for so many years is something that, we're very proud of. And I'm very much looking forward to reflecting on the success and the learnings of this inspiring work today with Carla and the other members of the panel.
Yeah, because it really has been such a massive joint effort. But Carla, I'd like to just bring you in now, because why MNT? Why did you choose MNT as a cause for UNICEF to get behind?
Thank you, Isabel, and thank you, Ranya, for your inspiring words. We're very grateful to Pampers. The entire UNICEF teams are very proud of this long-standing partnership. MNT is important. It's a preventable disease that is fatal if not taken care of carefully. And so we contributed together with Pampers at eliminating MNT in 26 countries. We've saved nearly 1 million newborn lives, and we've procured together 300 million vaccines that protected 100 million women and their babies. So a massive impact in the field. What we hear from many is that MNT is a tale of two worlds. In wealthy countries, MNT is a thing of the past. We women have experienced it. We deliver in medical facilities. We're vaccinated. Newborn, the babies are vaccinated routinely. They get the first shot, they get booster shots. It's not the same story in poorer countries where MNT is fatal, and the minute you have it, that's it. You cannot cure it. In wealthy countries, you get a booster shot if you step on a rusty nail. In poorer countries, that's not the situation. So it's been a transformative partnership that has really had a huge impact in the field. And I think that moving forward, we'll have to learn the lessons and keep going.
It certainly has been a transformative partnership, and those figures are so impressive when we hear them out loud like that, changing the lives of millions of people. We saw Professor Linda Scott just a few moments ago. I'd like to bring in Professor Linda Scott in now, because what interests me is this notion of togetherness that we have evoked, that Carla and Ranya have spoken about, in terms of all the members and people who've been on board, the amount of people who've been impacted by this. How important is this notion of togetherness, Linda? Was this a problem that was too big to solve by one party alone?
Well, let me, if you don't mind, Isabel, say a little bit first to position my team in the research on this, because I think it's important to help people understand the contribution here. My team was engaged in a research project that was designed to monitor this partnership as well as its implementation of the program. We were independently funded so that we could remain objective. And under a contract from Oxford that guaranteed that objectivity. And the final report was published under the imprint of Oxford, and also appeared in the Harvard Business Review online. So these things sort of underscore the importance and the credibility of what went on with this partnership. I think the most important thing about this was the clear fit between not only the capabilities but the perceptions of these two partners. It allowed them to execute in a way that few partners would be able to do, in fact, certainly at that time. And the fact that one partner was very much well known around the world for its humanitarian cause, and whereas Pampers was well known for its engagement and interest in maternal and infant health care. All of this worked. And in particular, we also had feedback that people felt confident that when they engaged with this campaign and purchased the brand in order to do the one pack, one vaccine, they had confidence that on the one hand, UNICEF would be able to implement And on the other hand, that Procter & Gamble, with its long experience distributing products around the world and messaging around the world, would be able to get it done. So it really worked quite well.
But Carla, as Linda was saying, two partners who come from very different worlds. Where was the common ground?
There was clearly a shared vision, as Ranya said. But if you think of UNICEF, building on what Linda said, we say that we have boots on the ground in development and humanitarian settings. So that presence helped in the delivery. It was a shared vision. We know our audiences. We listened to them together. We developed jointly and executed long-term plans together. We researched and evaluated the results. This is what made it successful. It was really a joint venture with brutal honesty on what was working, what was not working. That's what I get from the teams who were really involved in this. And just so you know, within the last 5 years, we have been able to massively accelerate the results, contributing to 500,000 newborn lives saved since 2015. So if we look at how UNICEF functions and operates, we work with governments, with civil society, with children, young people, the private sector. So we have this outreach. This partnership came as an example of how you do work with business, how you can really create a shared value partnership, shared purpose, with massive impact in the field and changing the lives of people. So we also benefited from the outreach of Pampers because they managed to mobilize their customers, their employees, their retailers. It was really a transformational approach to doing business.
So, Carla, you're just saying there, shared values, brutal honesty. But Ranya, for you, beyond that, I guess, what was key? What was instrumental to making this partnership a success?
The impact we're celebrating today, like eliminating MNT in 26 countries, I think would have never been possible for one organization to achieve on its own. It really took the support and the passion of many different actors to make this aspiration real and concrete. And, Carla mentioned our retail partners, and I want to start with them because they were a huge part of this. They were super invested in this partnership, coming up with ideas to amplify and adapt the shared partnership and to bring it to life in store to their shoppers in a unique and an impactful way. So every partner was coming in and adding their own touch to make the partnership bigger and increase the impact. Another example is with our employees at Procter & Gamble, who really championed the partnership's force and showcased their support to the cause. We launched a sabbatical leave policy that was sponsored by the company for many years, and it allowed employees to do field work on the ground and help UNICEF deliver the vaccines. It was a really unique and unseen initiative and a big part of the partnership, something that brought a lot of pride to the business, but also, of course, to the individuals who were involved themselves. I remember so clearly all the testimonials of our employees sharing how proud and inspired they were to be doing such critical work. And of course, I wouldn't be complete if I didn't talk about the support from parents, which was incredibly positive. Every time a parent bought a Pampers pack with a UNICEF logo on it, we donated an MNT vaccine. We made this so special because it was simple and tangible. It used a very simple part of the life, of the everyday life of a parent, which is to buy diapers for their babies. And we turned it into an act of giving. Over the years, we also had fantastic support from celebrities like Salma Hayek, Angelique Kidjo, and many others who joined us and helped reach out to parents and carry the message in a very relevant and engaging way, of course. So when you look at the past 15 years, I always summarize this by the power of 1 + 1 = 3. Every party brought in their own piece, their own passion, their own commitments, and their brilliant execution to amplify and maximize our impact.
Well, Ranya, that was amazingly put and really so I suppose, so moving to hear what this partnership has done and been put into words so succinctly as you did. Linda, how do you see the key factors to the longevity and the impact of this partnership between Pampers and UNICEF?
Yeah, I think that there are basically two overall factors that were important in terms of the takeaways, the key lessons from this partnership. The first is that the way it was executed was quite unusual at the time, and that is to say that it worked through the business as opposed to a charitable contribution from the corporation, which at the time was quite controversial and new. But what they showed by doing this was that when you sort of bake into the business the effort so that it continues, it can continue because there's support within the business and it more or less pays for itself, that we guarantee that it will continue to go. That it will, and other kinds of programs that have similar objectives, particularly if they're based on a philanthropic budget, do not. They end up being one-offs. Maybe they go for a couple of years. So 15 years, that's a key reason why. I think the other thing is that we learned so much about how to facilitate, in particular, the women, the mothers participating in the vaccine program. At the time, it wasn't completely understood that barriers had to be lifted in order for them to access health care. And in the beginning, there were lots of problems that had to be solved on UNICEF's side in particular in order to deliver the vaccine that were specifically gender related. And these things have now gone forward and contributed to a worldwide understanding. It's become a very big topic about how to lift the barriers to health care for mothers and the well-being of infants as well, because that's very important.
So it's fascinating, a very simple message, but so many challenges, I guess, on the ground to overcome, in many countries have been overcome. Carla, this is a scheme, an initiative that has been replicated by others. Others will be looking to this and hoping to replicate it themselves. What would your recommendations be to like-minded brands who'd like to follow in the footsteps of Pampers and UNICEF?
If we build on what Linda said about the fact that it engaged the core business, this is a critical aspect of this partnership, and this is what we need to do in the future. So it's not just engaging on the periphery with the CSR team or with the philanthropic or foundation of the business. It's really engaging the core business. So it's a win-win for the two parties. But in this case, and here I'm quoting the teams who have worked on this, it was a win 5 times. Let me tell you why. It was a win for the vulnerable mothers who needed to be taken care of, who were still surviving in contexts where MNTU was still a problem. It was a win for the parents in wealthy contexts who, as Ranya said, by buying one pack, were actually delivering one vaccine to a family. It was a win for UNICEF in terms of our mission and DNA, which is to allow babies and children to survive and thrive. It was a win for P&G and Pampers in terms of business results. I mean, there was the commercial aspect of it and brand equity. And finally, it was a win for the staff of both organizations. Just a small anecdote. I was at a dinner, didn't know anyone, and people told me, oh, you're working for UNICEF in Geneva. Do you know about the Pampers? Everyone knows about this partnership. It gained so much attention in the general public because it was part of the daily lives of mothers in these contexts.
Win 5 times. That's really interesting. And Ranya, I know that this has been a model that's already been replicated. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think that the Pampers UNICEF partnership established a new model for cause-related marketing. And I think it really shows how businesses can both strengthen their brand, as Carla was saying, and at the same time have a real, tangible impact on a large scale, right? And this by drawing on consumer commitment for a specific cause. So I mean, I just want to talk about, one of the key factors of success here, which has been this mechanism of 1 = 1. So in this case, 1 pack equal 1 vaccine. This mechanism proved to be extremely successful in driving consumer engagement. And we are actually applying this mechanism across other areas of the P&G business. Just to quote a couple of examples, we launched the hashtag Pampers for Preemies campaign a while ago. And this campaign is based actually on a similar mechanism involving partnerships with hospitals and charities to donate diapers to premature babies. On the femcare part of our business, our Always brand launched the hashtag End Period Poverty campaign, which through the collaboration with several goodwill associations aims at keeping girls at school by donating feminine hygiene products like pads, for example. And that's also based on this simple yet so successful mechanism.
And as we were saying, simplicity is key to this. But Linda, you have been out in the field. You have been hearing stories in the field about the impact of all of this. With that in mind, I guess, what are the key takeaways that you have regarding this partnership?
I think that in addition to the ones that I've mentioned, I think it was extremely important. We found, and I agree with the other speakers, with Ranya and Carla on this, and that is that the staying true to the core message was extremely important. I think from a consumer point of view, certainly, because you didn't have to keep teaching it to them. It built over time. And I think that was very important, but it also was important because as people change, as teams changed on all sides of the partnership, everybody could stay consistent on the one message and the one effort. This allowed them to develop the effort to its best effect, and that was really good. But it also kept a certain level of commitment, I think, across the years. That people knew what they were about. It became a cause that everybody bought into, and it was really important.
It certainly is very important. And I think really I've been listening to the three of you, what's really rung through is, one, the simplicity of the message, but also the massive amount of work on the ground to ensure that the challenges were overcome, to allow that simple message to actually be enacted and get those shots in people's arms, get these immunizations done and protect millions of people. It's an amazing project. Right at the beginning, I introduced you to Dr. Azar, who is an immunization and MNT specialist. Dr. Azar, if you're still with us, we'd love to hear a little bit from you because like Linda, Dr. Azar has been working on the ground with mothers, with babies, and seeing the impact of this. So hello there to you, Dr. Azar. Tell me, how has this partnership impacted MNT across the globe in the long term?
Thank you very much. I think this is a long journey, almost two decades long. It started in 1989 as tetanus eliminations, and then with the UN partners, we started as MNTE with addition of mother as a focus. And at that time, if you remember, there were more than 200,000 cases of neonatal tetanus. That was a disaster, and these are all totally preventable. This tetanus mother MNT is primarily, it is individual risk. It doesn't communicate one to other. So it is highly doable, but the risk is probably only to the most deprived. Silent killer cases not being reported, most deprived, they are being affected, but the combination of four strategies, they worked, and you have seen the results. And this campaign, the tetanus protection, is primarily, it is very much different from the other campaigns. It gives you straight away 3 to 5 years protection when you vaccinate your mother, and the protection goes to the newborn as well for the initial 2 months when he is eligible for this. So this works, and now WHO is recommending 6 doses. So if you have gone through the 6 doses, you are going the supplementary vaccination. I think if you're seeing the results, you're just left with a couple, more than close to 10 countries which are still there. And Studies output is you got more than 80% reductions. That is amazingly. This globe number of cases it has tremendously gone down. When this partnership started in 2006, we have got 9 countries have been validated, and now we have got 47 thanks to the PNG contributions that they helped us eliminating 26 out of these 38 countries during these 15 years.
Well, that is phenomenal. Eliminating 26 MNT out of 26 countries from 38 years and 38 countries just in 15 years. But Carla, I guess funding often and generally for big organizations, for NGOs, is always key. Tell us, how has this partnership helped UNICEF raise much needed funds in the battle against MNT?
It helped tremendously. And what's interesting, it helped tremendously on the financial and non-financial side of the spectrum. So it did allow more funds to trickle in because people started understanding. And as Dr. Azar said, it's a silent killer. So you need to really talk about it and explain it. So it raised awareness. And this allowed people to understand that this is a killer disease. But that is preventable. They can do something about it. So it's helped us a lot. And it introduced others to join the cause. So an amazing entry point to allow others to understand the mission and mandate of the organization and to solicit action, which was impressive.
And as we were saying, Dr. Azar, you have experience, like Linda, of seeing the impact of this program, this partnership in some of these countries that are facing so many challenges. Can you bring us some of these stories, some of the things you've seen, some of the people you've spoke to, the difference this has made?
Thanks for the question. I think if you start with your analysis, we have already said it's a disease of poor. So straight away you should start thinking it is going to be the most deprived. So I start with the stories from the field. I go to the latest. We did Kenya validation 2018, and we went to the remotest, because when you do this deprivation analysis, you ultimately land into the remotest part of the country. We went to narrow country, and the touching thing was we couldn't find any anti-deaths. But when we went to that house, a solitary house, not house, it is a hut. And there was a mother, 2 babies, they were alive. And when we touched why we did this verbal autopsy, that why the child had this tetanus. Unfortunately, she was away from the facilities. She couldn't access to those vaccination campaign. She delivered at home, and at the time she was alone. But the only thing was she just took from the table the razor his husband was using to shave. He just cut it, and the newborn unfortunately perished. So this is probably, so therefore we are investing on all these 4 strategies, but this accelerated part, it goes to the supplementary vaccination. Let me go to another example of DRC. Again, going to the remotest, I can't say anything remotest than that part of you have to take an overnight flight, stay there at one of their bigger city, Lubumbashi, then you drive from sunrise and you reach there around sunset, which was dark for us. When you paved, we just went. It was raining, going down in the water, coming out of water. And after 5 days after the survey, when I came back, I saw that track. If I would have been seen earlier, I would never gone to that place. It was so scary. So I think these are the things which we have seen in the field. But I think the best part is the program and the services, they are reaching there. When you do say you have been validated, it's the mother are protected in that part of the world as well. You can see the example of the latest service of Chad. You have to start early in the morning, overnight in the desert, go to the remotest, just at the border. And when we are coming back, unfortunately, I had whiplash and using the scholars and all this. But I think you the satisfaction from this, that you are saving mother, that remains, for me, that remains very healing, that you are saving mothers and the newborns, and if that is probably the best thing. The impact of this, I think the happiest part is, if you see in this period in 15 years, you can have on our credit these big populations like China, India, and Indonesia. They validated, and then you have got this, and the most deprived, Timor-Leste validated, Haiti in South America, they validated. So I think this is a collaborative efforts, partners, donors, but I will say the commitment of the national governments, which paves the way, and they get saving their mothers and the newborns. Long-term impact, I think we are investing on antenatal platform, and we are preventing those mothers from this uh, expanding these immunization services and this community health workers. I think this network is paying a lot and contributing a lot to that.
Dr. Azar, I really commend your dedication going to these incredibly remote places, and it's amazing to hear these stories from places we will probably never travel to ourselves, but see the impact of this campaign that we've seen ourselves, as Ranya is saying, when we had our own kids' babies and bought these packs of nappies, and that you've seen what it's done in the field. Professor Linda Scott, I'm going to get to you in just 1 second, but for those participants who are listening to us, do feel free to send in some questions. We'll have a little bit of time to ask our panel here some of your questions. We've received some already, but do feel free to send them using that little question mark. Professor Linda Scott, I could see you nodding as you were listening to Dr. Azar about his experiences, and I know that you have your own experiences in the field, and I was wondering if you could share some of those with us.
Yes, I think for my team, the most dramatic thing that we were struck with was the degree to which the marginalization of the women was standing in the way of healthcare delivery and delivery of all kinds of other services, crucial services. And the first thing is that they really had no independence, that they could not make decisions themselves, that they had to rely on mostly their husband. And then next their in-laws to say it was even okay to get a vaccination. They very often, their mobility is very, very restricted, and their ability to have command over money to just do something like buy a bus ticket into the clinic was also a big barrier. And I think these things are rather obvious to the international community at this point, but they were not necessarily so at the time. It's important, I think, and Dr. Azar mentioned this, and I want to second it, that the risk to the infants was significant, but the risk to the mothers was as well. And to the degree that mothers had a fatal risk, it's important to remember that in most cases they left other children behind, and in addition their support for their families, and so that the downside rippled out through the community for both the loss of the infant and the health or loss of the mother. So what ended up happening is that we could see, and later it has been significantly demonstrated, that the delivery of crucial services like this, like vaccination programs and other health programs and other kinds of economic development things, is substantially hindered. And so that meant that there wasn't the upside of delivering these positive services, but also that the downside was considerable, that when you can't deliver these essential services in an efficient way, or you're blocked from delivering them at all, it has a massively negative impact on remote rural communities, which when you aggregate all that means that it's also a massively negative impact on their countries. And so from an international policy perspective, this became quite important learning. And I think it's a lesson that has been taken up by many others, and therefore the ripple effect of this goes well beyond Pampers and UNICEF. It's had a big impact.
And we're talking about vaccinations now regarding MNT, but obviously there's one topic we've been discussing a lot in our daily lives, and that is the COVID-19 pandemic and how to curtail that. Professor Linda Scott, in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic, how have you seen this impact the program?
Well, I think that all around the world, what we've seen is that the pandemic has constrained, in particular, women's economic abilities. And so, therefore, that would necessarily, particularly the impact on children when women are not able to earn and work, is really significant. They can't provide for them. And they actually, contrary to stereotype, are usually the ones who are responsible for providing. And so this is something that would have an effect that would ripple all across this effort. Yeah.
And a lot still needs to be done there, unfortunately. Now, as I mentioned, we are receiving questions from all of you who are listening here. I'm receiving them here on my phone, so apologies for looking down from time to time. But Ranya, there is one question specifically that we've received here, and it is, what is the impact of the partnership on Pampers as a brand?
You know, at Pampers, we have one obsession, which is making baby's world a better place. And this is true by serving parents with superior products that they can trust. But it's also true with the commitments that we make through to the causes that we support, like the one we embarked 15 years ago with UNICEF. And overall, Carla referred earlier to the impact on the brand equity. This is very true. This partnership truly helped strengthen the equity of the brand, but it also helped us engage consumers deeper. The One Equal One promise was a very strong mechanic that resonated super well with parents and enabled them to be part of the journey. This wasn't just another commercial act. This was a true commitment that every parent could take. As I mentioned earlier as well, the partnership also helped our employees and gave them opportunities to play an active role. And that was incredibly rewarding. And it really instilled a sense of pride to be working for a brand like Pampers. And I would say, lastly, you know, for our future work, because we leverage the learnings that we have from this partnership to create and improve on the programs, on other programs that we have out there that are also designed to help make baby's world a better place.
And as we've been saying, there have been so many learnings from this. But Carla, I would like to bring you back in, because we've received a question actually just bouncing back off Linda, one of our participants wanting to know how the COVID pandemic has impacted the program in terms of UNICEF.
I just wanted to react to Dr. Azar linked to that. He was talking about DRC, and having worked in DRC in 2004 for a full year, it's a logistical nightmare to have access. So imagine, and Dr. Linda was describing those families in remote and rural areas. And just to answer this question, even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we had, and I have the figure here, 20 million children that were already missing out on critical routine immunizations and vaccinations. That's even before the pandemic. So imagine the impact of the pandemic on this delivery. And now with the pandemic, also a few facts for you. Routine immunization services remain disrupted in 37% of responding countries in the first quarter of 2021. It's just impressive. For UNICEF, in 2020, being the largest global supplier of vaccines, we delivered in 2020 2 billion doses. This is in 2020 despite the pandemic. And before that, our delivery was down from 2.29 billion doses in the previous year. So because of the lockdowns, because of the logistical nightmares to organize the vaccine delivery, it's been very difficult. And yet, thanks to partners in the support across the spectrum of the organization and the private sector, we've managed to deliver. The last point on vaccines, and COVID-19 has shown this, it's the inequitable access. We need to all fight for equity in vaccine distribution and supply. And we see it with the COVID-19 pandemic is the best example of what happened before, but now it's for everyone to see because it's touching on wealthy countries. It's impacting everyone.
It is impacting everyone, and as you say, it really has highlighted this inequity when it comes to vaccine access, when it comes to healthcare access. But nonetheless, you have been able, with this amazing network of partners, to continue to deliver these vaccines. So, Dr. Azar, one question we've received regarding this is, you mentioned that 26 out of 38 countries had already eliminated MNT just a few moments ago. What countries are likely to eliminate MNT in the coming years?
I think beside these 26 or in total 47 countries, there are 3 countries which have been partially validated. It includes Nigeria, Pakistan, almost half of the population. Mali, more than 90% of them, they have been eliminated. In future, we see the Mali, it may go close to end very soon. And then we have got, even adding to the list is Sudan, which is coming very closer, and they are already completed their activities. So I think we have these 3 or 4 countries which will coming up by 2020, end of 2021 or early 2022.
Okay, and Carla, is that what you're seeing too?
Yes, absolutely. It's critical that we go for the last mile. We can never completely eradicate the disease. We all know it, but eliminating it should be our ambition collectively. And actually, Pampers is supporting us in Pakistan. So it's not that they have stopped. We're celebrating the partnership, but the engagement and the interest continues.
And then we received this question for you, Linda, and it's regarding the power of purpose. And this person says this is increasingly important. And do you have any final tips for those who are new to this cause-related space?
Right. Okay. So this was a concept that was really sort of just emerging at the time of the beginning of this partnership, and that was the idea of brand purpose. It's the idea that that a brand, in this case, Pampers, has a brand of facilitating maternal and infant well-being, and that it would drive business. But also provide a planning framework for the brand management and for the company. In this particular case, it was really, I thought, crucial and innovative because it married the purpose of UNICEF and the purpose of Pampers. And that made it very intelligible for the consumer, but also helped to build those 2 perceptions and those 2 purposes for the brands. It is really, I can't emphasize enough that for other corporations looking at doing this, that it has to work like this. It has to be a comprehensible fit. We see a lot of just add-on, smushed together partnerships between NGOs or public sector partners and private sector partners, and that is just a waste, in my opinion. You need to give some thought to it, and this was just a really good example of making that the purpose on both sides work.
Yeah, the building blocks had to be established, challenges on the ground kind of ironed out to a degree to enable this to happen. It's been fascinating hearing from you all. We are going to close our discussion now, but I think more than ever, actually, having heard from you, I would like to close with maybe some final thoughts regarding this partnership, what you've seen, what you've experienced over these past very important 15 years, also as you look to the future. Thoughts that those who are listening to us should keep hold and mull over maybe in the days and years to come. Dr. Azar, with your rich experience, what would you like to say?
I will conclude by saying a quote, if a life saved is saving humanity. And if you see the UNICEF and Procter and Gamble, this partnership, this cause-related partnership, you have saved millions. So I think we all should be proud of that. And the lesson is probably this partnership. It is not you are raising funds and doing it. I think it is a double edge. The one, it was you are raising funds, doing implementation. At the same time, you're mobilizing community as well. And I would suggest that it should further expand to include other child survival initiatives, so that we can just building our community while we are eradicating or eliminating diseases.
And I think also what's fascinating in this discussion is you all come from very different perspectives. Now, Professor Linda Scott, in some respects, you've always got to step back. You've been studying this, analysing it, trying to understand why it's been successful. Tell us, what are your final thoughts, your key takeaways?
Yeah, I think one thing I would add is that in the intervening years on Pampers, from the Pampers UNICEF study, I've worked with a really large number of multinational corporations on similar types of efforts. And many of them have taken a tip from this and tried to work through the businesses, and I think it works. I would like to see many more doing that. I think that multinational corporations at this point represent a major source of resources for the world, and we need to learn to tap into those resources. I think they have an obligation to engage with humanitarian causes. I'd like to see more of that. Um, I would also like to see, however, more of people, organizations in the public sector and in the charitable sector working in this kind of not only productive way, a way that can be perpetuated, and to understand it can be perpetuated if they will engage with understanding the business side. In my experience, very often organizations of that sort just want to check. They just want to check. And when they do that, they totally underestimate what they can do and how long they can keep doing it if they will try to engage on an eye-to-eye, equal partnership basis with the private corporation. I'd like to see more of that.
Yeah, so it's understanding every kind of aspect of the partnership and as you say, be at an equal basis. Now, Carla, I could see you nodding vigorously at some points there when Linda was speaking. So what would be your final thoughts?
A call to action, building on everything that was said, to crowd in more brands and partners. We are in a unique moment in time. We need to build back better and greener after the pandemic. We will need support. Nobody will be able to do it alone, no organization. We know we have 10 years to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, 2030. That's very little time to make a difference. And if children are still dying from MNT when we want to reach the Sustainable Development Goal, I mean, this is a massive and a tall order, massive undertaking for all of us. So it's really to bring in more partners to do something similar and create a shared value partnership like we did with Pampers.
And Ranya, finally, now you have trod this path for many years now. You have been one of the very early actors in this partnership, creating it, seeing it being built up over the years. You must feel incredibly proud today as you reflect on what's been achieved.
Absolutely. Super proud listening. And I'd really want to thank Dr. Azar, Carla, Linda. It's really great to see the hard work and dedication of the teams at UNICEF, Pampers, our retail partners, employees, consumers. We've not only raised awareness, we've saved lives in the present, and we've protected the future. As I said previously, beyond the actual impact we've had on millions of mothers and their babies, I think it's important that we capture the learnings of such a partnership so that these Force for Good initiatives keep on making a strong impact. So to me, probably the two most critical lessons I've learned are, first, the power of identifying a cause that everyone was passionate about. It was the passion of every individual brought to the partnership that meant it really stood the test of times, those 15 years that we're celebrating today, and meant that we could achieve what sometimes seemed like the impossible, really. And finally, I would say, let's not be afraid to experiment. We didn't mention it previously, but this partnership actually started really small. It started in Belgium. But starting small was actually a great way to build confidence and to work through what was working, identify, the positives, but also identify what needed to be improved and what needed to be changed. And so everything that we've achieved is a testament to how doing something you really believe in, no matter how small it starts, can grow over the years and become something much bigger than what you would have ever expected. So that's really, for me, a very, very important learning. And of course, it goes without saying that we carry these learnings at Pampers with us as we're continuously looking for ways to make baby's world a better place.
And Ranya, I know that I said these were closing remarks, but questions keep coming in. And as this is really a process about learning, and we have you all here, I would love just to field one last question to you. And this is for Dr. Azar. And this is, what are we doing and what needs to be done to sustain the elimination of MNTs in countries where it already has been validated? Because that's core, really, isn't it? Because we've been talking about countries in the future, but this has to be sustained at the same time.
I think we have proved it that the countries are sustaining as well. And they are investing in their system. They are so much sensitized. We revalidated on the country's request 4 or 5 countries in the last 2 years. They've been validated, and we did validation of countries like Timor-Leste. But they are investing on their system, and they are reaching. They are so sensitized. They are reaching the most deprived, and they have got the policies where they reach. Despite of the conflict, they are working on the Child Health Day. They are working innovations like periodic intensification of activities, and they are reaching and they are doing it despite their weaker infrastructure and all challenges. I think they should continue.
Okay, so it seems like a very positive curve, and it's wonderful to finish this discussion on that positive note. And I'd like to thank you all for having joined us today. Really heartfelt thanks, because I've learned so much. So thank you so much, Dr. Azar, Professor Linda Scott, Carla, Haddad, Mardini, and obviously Ranya, Shamoon, for your insights, but also for bringing us on this journey and sharing this very important milestone of partnership and togetherness, and telling us all about basically the lives you've saved around the world. So until next time, thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.